And of course, I should always cue music, but
I understand. Fine.
make that 10 seconds. Mike's hot.
Gotcha.
Wondering what to write about, trying to figure out what it's all about. Existentialist, am I worth anything or just a discount? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Spending time all alone, sending my songs to the phone, dreaming of a better home. While I'm trying to hone this craft, witchcraft. I hope the brujas let this last. I don't know.
That was the great sounds of Watts with Outside on WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven. Myself, Prestige, with my partner in crime, Long Island raised, Elm City made, EZ BlueZ is in the building. EZ BlueZ, you're better with introductions more than me. Who do we have this today on Behind the Brand?
One of the most incredible things about culture, period, is how secular things can become. When we start off telling a story or playing the most incredible game we all knew as Clue, we were sitting upon this particular formula. We needed to know who done it and why. And from there, it went from a board game to TV shows to movies. And now we're fully, truly going back almost to the radio day aspect and telling these stories again through podcasts. It has exploded so much. Now they're making TV shows about people that do these type of podcasts. And it's those true crime podcasts that really dig us in. And us here at this weird show, we want that extra special angle. Now imagine having a podcast by two people who actually did news reporting on the story itself. It's no longer that stranger in that basement with the weird murder board. These are people who actually did the work. Unbelievable. So today we have with us, I want you to put your hands together. Not if you're driving, please keep your hands at 10 and 2 because we don't need any accidents. But mentally, put your hands together for, I will also say this, my amazing cousin, Mallory Wilson, and her partner in crime. I'm going to butcher your last name because I forgot to ask before we started.
You got it.
But Megan Delucine.
Close, yes. Delucine, yes.
Delucine. All right. From Buried Bylines. Welcome and bienvenue.
Thank you so much. We're excited. Happy to be here.
Appreciate it.
Now, what was it like to go from, actually working on the news story aspects and like, hey, we should totally hit a podcast and we should really give our opinions on this? What sparked that?
Go, Meg. Okay. So we kind of bonded over being weird. So this is the perfect show to be on. We worked the graveyard shift in the newsroom. So 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. roughly. So that was rough, but we also found that we really like true crime and we listened to the same kind of podcasts. So we were like, what if we just started our own podcast? What if we did that? And we said that for 5 years and then we finally did it.
I think when we were still working at the station, we felt like we were kind of being held back by our jobs. We didn't want to do or say anything that would get us in trouble or compromise our positions. And so last year when we both left news, we were the talks of what if we start a podcast actually was okay, we're going to start a podcast. We're going to do it.
I think we came up with the name at a Mexican restaurant over margaritas.
Yeah. Most conversations we have. But yeah, we just really, we talked about it for a really long time. And then Megan just started, she was like, I just made a logo. And I was like, oh, okay, it's real. We're going to do it. And
then, hey, here's an Instagram. Hey, we have a Twitter just in case we want to start it.
Yeah. And now we're off the ground. We've released 7 episodes.
Mhm.
So
One
we're
today.
one today. Yeah, we're just keeping on our schedule and doing the research, and we trade off on editing. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, I mean, that's one of the most incredible aspects of it, where you can obviously tell this came from a friendship. And for those that have listened to the show, you can tell that, because there's this amazing chemistry between the two of you guys that does. Sorry, but you can't buy that. You know, you have to, like, you guys went through an extremely similar experience doing the horribleness of a graveyard shift. No one wants to do the graveyard shift, and no one really wants to be researching anything at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning unless you're super hyper focused. And I think they have medication for that, but it's okay. You know, and that's fine. They tell me these things. I mean, it is what it is. But, you know, so here you are, you have this incredible friendship, and everything blossoms through. How, you know, like myself and Prestige, it just seems in that natural aspect of it. But how is it navigating, you know, the actual workload behind doing these podcasts? Because a lot of people are probably playing the home game right now, and they're like, oh, podcast, it's great. We just plug in a microphone and we just talk about things. And
Yeah.
that's what a podcast is. But there's real work that goes into it, and there's the different editing steps. We've had a couple of incredible actual editors come through here and start to talk about that process a little bit. But I'd love to hear it from your guys' point of view and how you truly divide up that work while maintaining a friendship, because some friends can work together and some friends should never, ever, ever, ever do business
Right.
with.
Yeah. Well, I think that we are lucky because we have a lot of experience in this field. So we went to school, we took classes on how to edit audio, how to edit video, and we've had that those tool sets like in our back pocket. We had to use a little bit of muscle memory when we first started to get those back into working.
A lot of
But
Googling.
a lot of
How to
Googling.
do this.
YouTube videos, but we use a software that helps streamline a lot of the process. So Spotify actually has its own software where you can launch your own podcast. You can edit and record everything in there if you want to. It makes it very easy to get your podcast on different platforms, and it's free. So it's a really great tool. But we split all of the work. So if I'm reporting on a case that week, Megan edits the episode. If she's reporting, I edit, vice versa. We both post on social media to try to promote our brand. We both make graphics. We are very 50-50 on the work. And if we can't be 50-50, we just communicate with each other and someone will pick up the slack. But I think we're doing a pretty good job. What do you think?
I think so. Yeah. And very early on, we talked about, hey, we're going to separate the work equally. And if you need help one week, just let me know and I can cover it. It's just all about communication, all about honesty. If you don't think you can edit an episode, just let me know. And then I'll jump on that, or I'll edit the first part and you can edit the last part. So it's a lot of teamwork, a lot of communication, but yeah, it's fun so far.
That's what matters.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons why I'm so glad we do these live shows, there's nothing to edit. And I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
All of that would fall solely on Prestige, and I'd feel bad. So that's awesome. Now, you guys were dead focused on starting off as a true crime podcast, or were there other ideas like, oh, we should, I don't know, review Marvel movies, or I don't know.
No.
Some of these podcasts go through.
Nope. It's always been true crime.
Yeah. We really started bonding over podcasts that we listened to and documentaries, and especially during the pandemic, we would watch documentaries together and talk about it, or we'd Zoom and talk about stuff. And we're very much into crime TV shows like Criminal Minds and stuff like that. So that's kind of where our like friendship started, was from this bond. And then, you know, we just trauma bonded from working in news
News is
together.
dramatic, you guys.
We forged a friendship in the newsroom where, you know, we kind of leaned on each other, and we became probably the closest friends that have come out of the newsroom. And
I think so.
yeah. So when we left, it was just kind of like, okay, now that we have gotten past the like leaving the news and starting a new job and a new career, we're still interested in true crime. We still talk about it all the time. Like, let's actually move forward and do this podcast. And it's helped us like stay connected also, because we don't see each other every day like we used to at work. So we get together like either over Zoom, or we'll get dinner and talk about the cases we want to cover. We've started bringing guests onto our show, which has been super fun.
It's so fun.
Very insightful. So we are like planning guests and cases to cover with those guests, which is really exciting.
Yeah. And it's just the thing about true crime, why I think it's exploded so much, and it's actually always been there, but it's just so interesting to look into the minds of these people and be like, how could I get there? Is there any way that I could do these things that this person does? I don't think so. And you're just like, why does that happen? And it's interesting to pick apart the brains of the people. And then a very important part of true crime is the victim stories too. So those are always very important to tell. We try to highlight those. And I think one of the biggest reasons we started this podcast is to kind of use our experience in the newsroom to help families of loved ones who are missing or murdered keep their stories alive in the media. We know what the media likes. We know the elements of a story that the media will pick up on. So yeah, I think our experience is unique for sure, coming from news and into the podcast world. But yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, that was really the hook line that I was like, oh my goodness, now I totally have to get y'all on the show. It had very little to do with nepotism, and had a whole lot to do with, you know, how incredible I think your idea is, and how much I think this story needs to be told, because, you know, you can never reinvent the wheel, and you know, being a musician and all that, you know, Frank Zappa said it the best, all original music's already been done by people with powdered wigs. Just have fun. You know, so, and that's kind of like how you guys are riffing, because these are stories that have been told, have been interweaving in our culture for years upon years, you know, whether it be the unsolved mysteries show that used to air all the time, or, you know, as you guys said, Criminal Minds, which is so massively addicting. Or I think they even had like a stalker show at one point, which was terrifying. The first episode, like the dude was like living in the walls. And then and then that next night there were squirrels in my wall.
Good. So you're like, there's a person in my house.
Yeah. It was dope. So cool. So I love that fact, and the fact that you guys really have put the research through, and you know what is supposed to be looked for, because there's a lot of, we'll say the amateurs, but a lot of, you know, true crime podcasters that are literally pulling strings from anywhere, because they don't know what people are looking for through an investigation. They're just, you know, throwing the spaghetti at the wall and seeing what's going to stick. You guys have a direct line of logic on how things are going to flow. You also have the perspective of what, you know, at the time the news people were covering, and you can kind of have a little bit more of an understanding on how the police are running an investigation. All of these tools you guys use on the show, which everyone should totally make sure that they follow and download, and then listen to it, and then listen to it again, and share with 10 friends. That's how this goes. You share with 10 friends, they share with 10 friends. Yes. So you have been tasked. Yes. Now, what's the next step though? Like, are we going to get super corporatized? You know, are there going to be like shirts And are there going to be like, are there hats coming? Coffee mugs? You know,
I would love
maybe
that.
notepads. I'm just saying, notepads.
I like that idea. I don't think I think we're a little too humble right now to be thinking about merch. We're only 7 episodes into our podcast, but we have definitely thought about like down the road if we would make merch. I think one of the things that we'd probably put on a t-shirt that I feel like we've said every single episode is if you don't laugh, you cry.
Yeah.
Because
that's the newsroom motto.
Yeah, sometimes when we're talking about these cases, like there are some things that are so incredible that happen that I just can't help but like laugh. I'm like, this person is crazy. How did this happen? And we'll like make jokes and laugh about it. And it's not because we don't care or, you know, we have a lack of empathy. It's just we've built this like like system in us where we are so used to hearing and writing and talking about these crime stories that if you don't laugh about it or find a way to laugh, you're just going to be sad and cry all the time.
Yeah, you find yourself getting too deep, and then that's when it's time to jump out with a joke, because you can't just sit in the negative, and there's a ton of that now. But that's why I think towards the end of the podcast, we always try to discuss why did this story blow up specifically and kind of pick that apart. And I think that's really interesting to look at. And again, it helps families of victims of crime, like kind of figure out, okay, what can I do to get the media's attention, keep this in the news. We talk about there's actually times of the year that stories could be more likely to get picked up, like any day after a holiday, there's no news at all. So if you ever need to have something get out there, do it the day after Christmas.
That's why you see so many stories that have become like cult classic or like those true crime cases that everybody knows. If you take a look at it, like Scott Peterson, JonBenet Ramsey, both of those cases happen in the window of Christmas.
Yeah, Christmas and New Year's, right? Yeah, so that's like a void of news because everybody's off, and it's like just 3 people in the newsroom that are like, we need news, we need something to talk about.
And so they'll have something that like, you know, a missing woman like Lacey Peterson, like so many people go missing all the time. But when there's no news and all you have to focus on is this one story and you put all your efforts on it for 3 days straight, and then every media person is there, and then it's like a media by trial of Scott Peterson before he's even, you know. And listen, I've listened to a lot of podcasts and I'm still not convinced.
Don't die on this hill, girl.
I am not convinced that he killed Lacey. I think he was a bad person. I think he was a bad husband, but I am not convinced that he killed her.
I allegedly and respectfully disagree with you.
Well, I am convinced that we are on WNHH 103.5 FM, New Haven. Myself, Easy Blues, my brother from another mother, Prestige. We are here with Mallory and Megan talking about true crime podcasts, and we just got a sample of what the fire is like on the show and how you can actually respectfully disagree. And it's a beautiful thing to watch and move forward with. Absolutely love that, and fantastic. As you move and you continue to grow, do you purposely look for those type of stories where you can both sit on a different side of it? Or is this just kind of stuff that the story itself is interesting, or you can actually look at it and like, hey, definitely not enough coverage for this story happened, I'm going to shine some light on it? Are any of those steps or all of them the way you guys select your stuff?
Yeah, I think right now we're trying to stay true to the core of the podcast, which is talking about stories that have either massively blown up and examining why they've catapulted, and really focusing in on cases that have not gotten a lot of coverage at all. So sometimes we will cover a case, like in our second episode, Megan did a really good job of talking about the Gabby Petito case, which became so insane nationwide. Everyone, it felt like, was paying attention to that case, or had at least heard about Gabby Petito. And in the same breath, like in that episode, she talks about an Indigenous woman in North Dakota who was murdered and found in a river. And her case is absolutely insane. It's literally the plot of a TV show episode that we were talking about. And I had never heard of it. And so just being able to spotlight those cases that are just as crazy, they have just as many details and buzzwords to blow up, but they don't for whatever reason. And so we try to look at those cases and each factors and what would make it so that this case didn't get as much attention.
Yeah, and we really like the personal aspect of cases. At the end of our episode, a lot of times we call out for what was something that happened in your hometown or a crime that you remember that you're like, how did this not blow up? And then we will look into it and tell you why. Because I think that's just really interesting. A case could have the exact same elements, but one blows up and one doesn't. And it's very interesting to look at why that is.
Well, and that's also what's super interesting, because that really flows throughout all of art. And I look at anything, again, I'm weird. I look at anything that anyone does from a creative aspect of it, and it be art, whether it be the way you get dressed in the morning or, you know, anything can be that type of artist aspect of it. But when you start to really break down, like, you can have two songs that sound exactly, well, not exactly alike, because then people aren't getting paid correctly, but, you know, fall in that same type of vibe. And one song will blow up like crazy and one won't. Now, when you're looking at that industry and dealing more with the pop aspect of it, you look at what is more marketable. Is that something that you all have to look at in the news industry aspect as well? Like, I kind of want to dive a little deep in here and maybe get us all in a little bit of trouble. But,
hey,
you know,
we can't get in trouble anymore. We
That's
don't report to any entity except ourselves. So
it's great.
Okay, then let's go there.
Any aspect of news that you would like to talk about?
Yes.
Oh,
but
we're going.
Yeah, I will say there is marketability in certain crimes. We don't like to talk about that, but it is your not favorite, but the public's favorite victim is like a white, pretty woman, right? Those are the stories that get the most traction, when there are thousands of other stories exactly like it with people of minorities, people that are different genders, things like that. So it is kind of, when you work in news, you have to kind of pick out some of the elements you think the public is going to latch on to. So we always talk about audio, if there's audio, good sound. If you have a really good interview with somebody who's going crazy, you're going to pick that sound bite. Or visual things. So if there's really good video or there's pictures that you have that you can latch onto, people are more likely to air those types of stories than a story that's maybe just a press release about a missing person, which is unfortunate, but it's real. And that's kind of some of the things we talk about whenever we cover cases that were like, how did this not blow up, or why did this blow up?
That is very real, and honestly, thank you for your candor, and also your respectful candor. That was great. You didn't slightly pull the punches, but it was just right. It was the perfect thing to say at that moment.
Jab, just a little one.
So high five. Yeah, word. And it's really very, very interesting when we always try to look at the whole of the aspect, you know, the whole of the community which is going to consume this, and you hope for it to be on a global level, runs very different metrics than, say, a particular town, or, you know, and all those type of things. And no matter what, in any type of art, it is subjective. So someone's going to get it, someone's not going to get it, and that's just the way things go. So in no way are we pouring salt in anyone else's hustle. We're just getting behind the story just a little bit. And we appreciate that just a little bit. Now, going from working for the corporate entities to now being upon yourself and on your own, which one do you like better?
I definitely like being able to say whatever I want on my podcast. I like not having to have a filter, but I do think that there are some core things in us as journalists that we're not going to let go of. We
Yes.
still want to have integrity in our reporting. So even if we are not reporting, we don't have anyone looking over us. We're checking ourselves. I'm checking Megan. She's checking me. But we want to make sure that everything that we're putting out there is accurate. We're still not trying to speculate. We are only reporting facts and things that we can tangibly bring forth. We talk a little bit about I looked and I saw this on social media, or someone said this on Reddit, but we're not giving any cadence to it. We are just saying, we've seen this, we've heard people talk about this. As of right now, there are no facts to back that up. But I think that that's really important to us. I don't mind listening to people on podcasts talk about what they think and have their own opinions. I mean, we give our own opinions sometimes too, but we really try to tell the stories of the victims through facts, what we can find in news reports, in police reports, anything that is tangible. I mean, this week I reached out to a police officer in my
She called the police department, you guys.
Yes, she did. Love it.
I needed to know some things, and I got answers, but I mean, I think that those core things, we're never going to let go of. We might, as we grow, we might feel more comfortable giving our opinions, but they're always going to be based in fact.
Yeah, and we make it very clear when we are saying an opinion that it is an opinion. My favorite word on the podcast is allegedly.
Yes.
So, allegedly, I say my opinions on the podcast. But again, credible sources. We need to make sure that if we read one fact in one source, there needs to be at least another source that says it. And if not, we'd be like, okay, I only saw this in one place, so take it with a grain of salt, but here's what they said. So just making sure that we're looking at sources that are credible. We try to look at the local sources as much as we can. And Mallory even got us a subscription to look at old news archives. So
I know.
that'll be
I was
fun.
going to say that is part of the uphill battle that we're facing, is when we're trying to focus on cases that don't have a lot of coverage. So finding information about them can be kind of hard. So we now are tapped into a newspaper database where we can look at archives and read old newspapers, because we've even run into some stories that we've covered from the 70s that there's no archive of news on television websites, or there's no old reports that we can watch. So it's hard to tell too. I'm sure there was TV coverage of this, but we don't know. We can't find it. There's no archives of it. So, I mean, I wish I could watch it. I know. I live to watch old TV, news clips.
And then they talked so weird back then. I don't know why they had to talk like that, like the newscaster voice.
The old TV reporter voice.
Walter Cronkite.
Yes.
Yes.
And also when you watch it, the color palette, it seems so muted.
I know.
Especially with the grays and the blue. You're just like, this is surreal, because this is not what people actually look like. This
is from 1879. What are you talking about?
It's incredible. Now, as a creative, I also look at things, and we all have what I like to call our great white whale. The one that got away, that song you always wanted to write. What's the story for both of you? That is the one that haunts you guys and you really want to flesh into.
Are we both going to
I'm talk questions.
I think so. I was going to say, I think that we have the same answer, and the same answer is because we spent years covering this case at work, and it has blown up. And we did our first episode about it. It's the Delphi murders in Indiana. And I mean, we both have followed that in our career over the years, and so I've written so many scripts. I've followed so many leads on
Reddit
this
page.
There's so many like things to spiral about this case. And it's actually been really hard. Like I covered the Delphi case in our first episode, and it's like an hour just to talk about it. And there were so many things that I had to be like, I left information out because there are so many things in the last 5 years that have happened that I'm like, I can't talk about every single small thing.
Right.
And it's also hard to separate things that I've heard off the record because there's been so much like chatter, or you know, we've had friends that have been on scene talking to police officers that have told them like off the record they're this, that, and the other. So I think that is like my most I need answers.
I do too. Yeah. And the fact that we have so much information but so little at the same time is infuriating. And this broke when we were news babies. So like I think Mallory was still in college. I was working the assignment desk, and I remember the call coming in saying, hey, there's 2 girls missing. We just need to keep an eye on it. And then we called and they were like, no, they're probably just at a friend's house or whatever. So we're going to pick up the search in the morning. And then they were found. And it's just crazy to be there in real time when it's happening. And I think that's why our guest episodes are I think they're going to be so good. Like the first one we did is great because we're talking to former journalists who covered this case or whatever case we're talking about in real time, and they can explain, this is how I felt, this is the reaction in the newsroom. It's just really interesting, and it's a piece of the news that the public really doesn't get. So I think giving a little insight to what makes journalists tick is is interesting. But yeah, I would say the Delphi case for sure, because I just need to know all the answers.
Yeah. You know, all of those TV shows where they like show what it's like in a newsroom, or like when news breaks and everyone goes crazy. That's real. That is so real. And that is like, I'm convinced that is like a high that a lot of journalists get, and it keeps them in the game for so long because they live for that like high of breaking news. And it can be super crazy and super stressful, but one of the great things about TV that I always liked is the instant gratification of putting something on TV and seeing it as it's happening.
In 15 seconds, we have to write a script about a breaking news story, and you're like, and then you're telling the anchor, read this real quick. I know you didn't read it yet, but just read it. Trust me.
Trust me. Yeah.
There is a lot of trust in the newsroom for sure between producers and talent. So yeah.
No, that is absolutely incredible, and it is a glorious thing, and I love how you guys are now talking with the journalists also. And you can go back through time, and these past couple of years have been you understand you're living in moments of history. You're understanding how history is being changed at this very moment, and us as people can feel a certain way about it, but y'all are literally helping write what history is going to be. So it is that thing where now you can put that human connection to what y'all are going through, as the tellers of the story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's a whole other beautiful story into that we don't, get to come into, because that's been a very small little, I don't want to use the fraternity line, but I guess I kind of have to. It's lame. I don't want to say it because,
it's like a club. It's like a news club.
We'll say it's like a club. We'll say it's like a club.
Yeah, I think Pat, he was our first guest, and he at the end of the episode was like, well, this was kind of like helped me cope with this story a little bit, like talking about it and getting it out. So it's kind of therapeutic in a way for the trauma bonding that happens when you're in a newsroom. So just talking about it and then bringing things to light, I think, is a good way to cope for journalists, for sure.
Yeah, I think it's been really fun talking about our experience, like throughout each episode. Like there are little nuggets of producing that come out that we kind of have to talk about, and I think that is what people are interested in. A lot of people don't know what news producers actually do, and not not to put like anchors on blast or anything, but news producers write every single word that a news anchor says.
Yeah.
And whether they go in and read their scripts and edit them, that's
on them.
That's person by person. It'll be different with each anchor you encounter, but we do all of the work. Like we pick the stories, we write the stories, we pick the video, we are writing all of the graphics that are on the screen. So like when we are
shots of the camera, like we're like, we want this to be a 2-shot, we want this to be a 1-shot.
Yeah, we're planning everything. And when we're writing these scripts, like we have it's just all of this information, and we are forced to know all of this stuff. Like we have to know about local crime, we have to know about national crime, we have to know about politics, we have to know about what's trending, entertainment story, like everything. Weather. Is there going to be like a hurricane? Is there going to be tornado watches? And we have to, even though we have meteorologists, we have to know about that stuff too. So
it's a tough job for sure.
Yeah.
It is a tough job at WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven, myself, Prestige, and my partner in crime, Long Island Rays, Elm City Maid. Ladies, I hope I didn't lose your train of thought. Go right ahead.
No, it's all right. I was just going to say, do either of you watch SpongeBob?
I do.
Yes.
Okay, do you know the episode where it's a bunch of little SpongeBobs in his brain running around and things are on fire and they have files?
Yes.
That's what our brains are like in the newsroom.
That's amazing.
Every day.
Every day.
and the sick, twisted part of my mind is like, that sounds fun.
No.
It can be. I mean,
it can be. It's fun after you're done.
Yeah. I think that Megan and I definitely cultivated a culture for ourselves of helping each other. I think that when you come into like a shift, like the morning shift, it can kind of feel like every man for themselves, and you have to do everything by yourself. And I was like, that's dumb. Why are we not helping each other? Why are we not helping each other? We have so many resources. There are 8 producers in this room. Why are we not helping each other? And so we started, like, we would send each other scripts. I'd be like, I wrote this script if you want to use it.
I'm like, bless, I'm behind. Thanks. And yoink it right out of there.
And so, like, having that, I think building that relationship also helped us with the podcast, because I had grown over the years, like sending each other stories, and we had already gotten on that basis of like, okay, I'm reading this, I know all of this is true, I can trust you. And if I can't, and if there's something wrong, like I feel comfortable enough to be like, hey girl, you got to change that, because the people of Indiana can't know that you messed up.
That's true. But this happened literally yesterday, or no, 2 days ago, when I sent you the edited episode. You were like, girl, it was 2005 and you said they didn't have cell phones. Do you want to edit that out? I was like, no, it's fine. It's fine.
I edited it out. Don't worry. No, you did. I'm a good friend.
I just outed myself on live radio.
That's all right. It's also on Spotify and on Apple and on the Audible.
Great. Yep,
so,
great. Cool.
But that's the beauty of this, and that is the most incredible part about what you guys do, is this chemistry really does flow together, and it works so well. Now, as you guys do evolve, and I'm always think 900 billion steps in the future. So Are there going to be like spin-offs? Are you guys going to move into different types of stories? Are you guys, I don't know, going to rock the ASMR world? Like, what's the
No.
next evolution?
No.
I'm just asking. There's
Nope.
money there.
The amount
I'm
of
a big
mouth
fan of
sounds I have
money.
to edit out of these episodes. I guess we
Just-
could post those.
Yeah, make that a compilation.
No,
Ugh,
listen,
ugh,
I don't know what it is, but when I'm scrolling on TikTok and ASMR videos come up, I get enraged. I'm
It's
like
the ick.
uncomfortable.
It's icky.
I don't like it. It makes me feel weird. I'm like scrolling as fast as I can. So I can confidently say no to ASMR.
Yeah.
But I think that right now we're trying to provide like a variety of cases just because it's really easy to fall into
Yes.
murder.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And so we've tried, I mean, we definitely have done our fair share of murder cases, but I mean, a couple weeks ago we did a case about a cult. We have done which I love cults. I would love to do like a spin.
Don't say it like that.
Well, I love stories about cults.
You're interested in cults.
I definitely am interested.
I heart cults.
You're a good friend. You are such a good friend. I tell you that.
Well, I've been in one, so we could talk. It's fine.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, can we have you on our podcast?
I mean, sure. They weren't a good cult. They were just. It was like a martial
They're
arts
all bad
school.
cults. No
They,
cult is a
they,
good
yeah,
cult.
they, and the only reason why I didn't really like participate is because they wouldn't let me actually fight them. I had to like go upon like I was like, but I can actually destroy y'all. Can we just get violent and it'd be more fun? And they're like, no, you have to wait your turn. I was like, this is nonsense. So that's
I'm
why I
out of
left.
here.
That's the thing about cults too that we talked about is like anybody could fall into the right cult.
Mhm.
Like nobody could like I feel like there are definitely things that I would follow. I'd be like, I'm super interested in this thing, or I am a big fan of something, and then it like spirals, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, am I in a cult?
Am I in a
Yeah.
cult?
Is this a cult? And
You're like, no, just Lululemon. It's fine.
yeah.
No. Don't fall for it. I think cleaning talk is a cult, and I'm in there somehow.
Yeah.
Clean talk.
I don't know. Clean talk, yes. And I'm like, wow, I could probably do this.
TikTok in and of itself is probably like a cult thought.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
I would say so. It's taken over
No.
our brains anyway.
yeah.
Have there ever
But
been
you want-
any?
but you want to know something with the TikTok people? I have to say, like, I jumped on there and I'm able to be my weird self and it's fine.
That's true.
But like the people that follow you really like follow you. Like we released a single only through Bandcamp, and this lady that's followed me and has been following me for a while, like paid $10 for it.
Oh,
I was like, say what?
what a
Like, it's,
sweetheart.
yeah, like I was like, it's a song. Like you could just listen to it. Like it's free. You know,
So
so
sweet.
it's
So
like,
nice.
you don't even own it. You know, you can't touch it. It's just a wave.
It's an NFT.
Yeah. So
I'm interested.
yeah.
Did you have a question? Were you
I
gonna ask
did.
your question?
I mean, I did. I just want to interrupt you guys. But
Okay.
have there ever been any topics you're like, okay, this is too much?
Hmm.
A lot of people are asking for like the big ones. Like I think people have asked for like John Bonet. What
Ooh.
was another one? I feel like it was recently somebody asked for something big.
Someone
don't
asked
remember.
for Lauren Spear.
Yeah.
I
And
think we were gonna try to bring a guest on for that.
yes. And like there are some cases where like if they've blown up a lot, there's just a ton of research that you'd have to do. So
Right.
that would definitely be something that we'd have to plan for in advance. And we try to keep the big ones, or at least like I would like to do like the John Bonet and the Lauren Spear as like a milestone episode. We're
Right.
almost at 10. So that's a
think-
milestone for me.
When it comes to topics or like details, there's nothing off the table for me. I feel like not
We've
to
done
be-
some
not to be super dark, but I've literally seen like body bags in person of people on news, like live shots and stuff. And I've read graphic details in police reports. I've watched TV shows that are pretty graphic. So nothing is like off the table for me, but I do think like, I mean, even Megan, a couple weeks ago when you did that cult episode, there were some details that
it was bad. I was like, I'm not saying
you didn't want to get into.
If you want to look into it, you can, but like that's another part of journalism where you need to publish things that are important and contextual, but you shouldn't do it for shock value. So I think that's important too. Just like if there's anything super gruesome, like if you're interested in it, you can find it. I'm not going to tell it to you because I read it once and I don't want to ever think of it ever again. So yeah, but I think no crime is off limits, to be honest.
I love actually how you kind of mentioned that, and you know, obviously things are starting to wind in the going to be closing the show soon. But what do you guys do to purge that negativity that sits on you from each story and stuff like that? What's a healthy way, or sometimes maybe an unhealthy way, that you guys are, you know, moving and shaking to repair your soul as you're taking on all this extra baggage?
Well, I feel like it's a lot easier now. I don't know about you, Megan. I think it was really hard when I was like going to work every single day, writing about crime in my neighborhood, crime happening nationwide, and then coming home and like listening to a true crime podcast or watching a true crime documentary. Then it felt like an overload. And it was just like, I can't do this. I had to like limit myself to like one podcast a week or something that I was super interested in. But now that I am not covering like daily shooting.
Yeah, you're not surrounded by it.
Yeah, it's
like
a lot
even
easier.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's a lot easier for me now to be focused on like my one thing that I'm doing, my one episode, doing the research. It's a lot easier than before.
Yeah, and when you're a journalist, I think a lot of people don't realize this, but you're never really off the clock. News happens at all hours of the day. So like I know Mallory and we'd go to bed at 6 a.m., wake up at 4 p.m., and then have to check our emails about what happened during the day so that we could put it into our newscast that following night. So you're constantly checking up on the tragedies of the world, the crimes, things like that. So it's just a lot. But I think this podcast is helping us kind of get some of that out too, and just being able to talk about it with somebody who understands. Because as much as we tell like our family, like, oh, this is the day I had today and I'm really bummed out, they don't really get it because they can turn the news on and off. And when you're working in it, you're just surrounded by it. So it is a lot easier now that we're both out. Yeah.
Wow. You were talking earlier about all of those things. You're like, there's been so much like history that's happened and all this stuff. And I think by the time that Megan and I left, like we had such a unique time that we worked in news. We both graduated from college in 2017. And so I started my news career right as the Trump presidency was starting. Which really changed, not to be political at all, it's just a fact. It changed how newsrooms and journalists were treated and looked at. There was a shift in respect to journalists and it made our jobs a lot harder. And so I think that just starting that being the precedent of like how our careers started and then going over the next like 5 years of all of that and then like a global pandemic. And
COVID was like, hi.
Yes.
we had the pandemic.
As COVID said hi and told everyone to stop in 2020, the time clock is telling us hi and it's time to stop here on Behind the Brand. We just wanted to give you guys see, it was a great transition, right? Totally
Good
get
job.
that. Thank you. But we want to give you guys just the last couple of seconds of the show to tell people how they can get in touch with you, how they can listen to the show, how they can share it all with their friends. Please, the floor is yours. Love you guys so much for being on.
Valerie, you're better at it. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. So we are Buried Bylines podcast. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple, anywhere you get your podcasts. We have an Instagram. We have a Twitter. Both of those are Buried Bylines pod. And you can send us emails at buriedbylines@yahoo.com if you want us to look into a certain case, a hometown case, anything you're looking to get answers on. We are all ears. We're always looking for cases. We're looking for journalists to come on and talk about cases that they've covered. So feel free to reach out to us on social media or via email. We are so thankful for your time and to be featured on your show.
Yeah. Thanks for
And
having us.
We had so much
Absolutely.
fun.
Thank you. It was fun. On WNHHLP 103.5 FM New Haven, myself, Prestige, and my partner in crime, Long Island Rays, Elm City made EZ Blues. Appreciate you, ladies. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wondering what to write about, trying to figure out what it's all about. Existentialist, am I worth anything or just a discount? I don't know. Spending time all alone, sending my songs to the phone. Dreaming of a better home, we more focused on trying to hone this craft.